We are rolling on April
Fifth, Thursday.
Thursday, April 5th, where it's a beautiful day in Los Angeles. The sunshine is shining. Eat your heart out in New York City. And we're about to hear a respect speech from Connie. Connie is in the power center of the room, one step to your left. And she's looking around the room, managing attention, making sure all computers are closed, that telephones are away, that all eyeballs are on her. And if you see somebody with a computer opened or texting or eating, you just clear your voice like that in a friendly way. Then you are in the power stance, which means your feet are tripod, just slightly wider than your shoulders. You manage your attention, you communicate respect non-verbally. You look around the room and you say to yourself, I respect my audience. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, my name is Connie D.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, Connie. And I'm here to talk about you to respect today. Respect is a word that was often kind of thrown around as we were children and growing up. And I believe that most of us heard respect in the context of phrases such as respect your elders, respect your parents, or respect your teachers. And although those are similar in ways, I think the main idea that they were conveying is that as long as someone held power and authority over you, you should respect them. However, a phrase that I believe is more important or just as important and definitely less commonly known is the phrase, respect your peers. Respect your peers. I think that's something that usually people think of and they say, oh, that should go without saying, you know? However, the phrase respect your peers can be easily substituted by the phrase treat others the way you want to be treated, which kind of has the same idea because everyone wants to be treated with some decent respect. So why is it that the phrase treat others the way you want to be treated is so much more commonly known than the phrase respect yourself or respect your peers? And I believe that has to do with the idea of society embedding the idea that respect is something that should be earned, not given out as a freebie. And I disagree with that. I believe that respect has different forms and different ideas, and the most basic and important one is the idea that you should respect others just as human beings, as they are, and you should give that basic respect. And I'll tell you how I reached that conclusion through my experiments, starting with the good stories. For the good, there was definitely more positive responses I received than negative, so that's always a good thing. And for the good mainly, these could have been communicated in such simple gestures, just as me holding out the door for someone. And as they came in, as people come in, whether they were kind of rushing in to get through the door, or occupied with holding something, they were very grateful for my action. And I made sure to respect them in turn by saying, oh, you're welcome, no problem, don't worry about it. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the most studious person ever, so when I went to Powell Library, it's still kind of a foreign entity to me, so I needed help and directions. And when I approached the staff person there, I made sure to greet them with, sorry to bother you, but could you help me out? And I asked them my questions. And in turn, they were enthusiastic, helpful even. They were very happy to help me, and I was very appreciative of that. So I made sure to show that by saying, thank you so much, and have a great day. And the most important thing that I got from this was when I was going to get dinner. And during this time, it was a very busy line, and when I approached the cashier, he kind of had on a face that kind of was not very pleasant, kind of was a move, get your order, move along, hurry kind of thing, no time for idle chit-chat or anything. So I wanted to be respectful of that as well. And when I got my receipt back, I made sure to show my appreciation and respect by saying, thank you so much and good luck with your work. And in turn, he smiled and thanked me as well and told me to have a good day as well, which I think was really important because the transition of him not being very into his job or kind of being very passive, transition to him greeting me and like smiling as I walked off was a very nice and very important thing to me. And next with the bad stories, which are not necessarily bad, but definitely more muted and passive in comparison to the good stories. And most of these responses I got were mainly just gestures of like someone else, for example, holding out the door for me, and I would try and show my respect and appreciation by saying, "Oh, thank you so much, thank you." And in turn, they kind of just nodded and smiled and walked off. To them, my show of respect didn't mean that much of a big deal. They didn't like think about it too much. It wasn't that important to them. And that's okay. That's understandable. And for the ugly story, there was only really one instance in particular where my show of respect kind of earned me an awkward reaction that in turn made me feel awkward as well. And during this, I was walking back to my dorm. And I was having my headphones in, listening to music, quite not paying attention. And as I was walking, someone called out to me and said I had dropped my pencil. So I looked back and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And in turn, he kind of seemed a little bit awkward. So I approached him and retrieved my pencil and made sure to show my respect for him again and said, thank you so much." But in turn, he kind of seemed uncomfortable at this show of respect. And he said, "Oh, yeah, sure." His expression to me at that time kind of gave off the feeling that he thought his actions did not warrant my gratitude, or my gratitude to that extent at least. And I thought this was very interesting. And through this experience, I learned that there are different forms of respect that we have to understand. For example, in response to the bad and the ugly stories, I could have been upset that my show of respect or my attitude to convey respect was not taken seriously. It was passed off. It was kind of ignored and brushed off. And here I am trying to reach out to them. I could have been upset at that. However, I chose to think about it in another term instead, whereas respecting the person and respecting that they have their own standards, their own life, their own priorities, their own issues that may not let them respond to me as they would have maybe liked to in a different circumstance. So we have to understand that respect, when we try and give respect, we cannot expect everyone to always respond the way we want to or the way we expect them to. And for the person in my ugly story, he might not have been accustomed to that show of respect that is normally in everyday life, and that's completely fine. It's not something that's his fault. It's never someone, I don't think that it's ever someone's intention to make someone else feel bad or ignore them. And so I think the biggest important thing to tie back to my intro is that respect is something that should be given and not gained, because respect as a human being is the most decent thing of all and the most basic important aspect. Because if we go along with the idea that respect should be earned, then it gives people the reason to just be jerks to each other because you're a stranger, so you haven't earned my respect. Therefore, why should I respect you? And you can't get that respect unless someone does something to earn that respect. And even in that sense, it's very subjective to earn respect because, again, everyone has different standards on how someone will earn their respect. So instead of thinking that way, we should say that everyone deserves respect as a human being because we are all living and breathing on the same world and the same issues. People are always dealing with their problems in everyday and normal life, and we don't know that, and we may never know that. So for listening to my speech and being here and learning despite everything else and living and breathing, let me just say, I respect you.
Thank you. So stay up there for your feedback. So now what we do is we go up and down the aisle. You stand up, say your name, and first say what you like.
Hello, my name's Viviana.
Viviana. Hi, Viviana.
I loved your speech. The part that I loved the most was the intro, where you gave this background of your experience with respect and how you think like you grew up with this idea that respect was for your for elders, authority figures. I thought that was really important that you brought that up, and then you kind of shifted it to that's not necessarily what it should be like. So that was definitely my favorite part.
Grad use or introduction. Okay, good. Thank you. Improvement.
Hey, I'm Grace.
Hi, Grace.
Something I really liked was how you kind of step to like respect only some people versus respect everybody, because that's something I've been talking to my friends about actually, which is like if you're stingy with your respect, maybe that's not the best way to go about it. You know what I'm saying? And I really liked how you stepped back and was like, everyone deserves a minimum level of respect, and I really appreciated that message.
At least initially, you know, until they slap you
Yeah,
in the
because
face
the thing that you said, actually, the stranger line was the one where I was like, that's what I was trying to tell my friend, and I couldn't put it into this words.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. Well, let me give you some feedback. First off, Connie, thank you so much. You went around 9 minutes, so I'd like you to be, everyone to be a little shorter, a little more word economy, but you were the first one and you did a nice job. I want to start on the positive. I want us to move 3 times when we speak, so we'll start with the intro and our thesis preview, standing in the power position. Go to the right, your right, 3 steps for the good, to the left, 5 steps for the bad, and back 3 steps to the center for the ugly, and then end up back in the center for the final crescendo. What this accomplishes is it calls attention to your pattern of organization, and it doesn't make you such a static being standing there, okay? Now, Grace, let me talk to you about some other manner things before I talk to you about the content. I want you all to have more of the narrative come out with your voice. So you had your great intro, and if you can say, so my thesis preview will be, I'll talk to you about my experiment, and I'm going to tell you about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You just said good, and then we knew bad and ugly was coming, but say the good, the bad, the ugly. So first, the good, see? So we really can follow you and know where you are. Now that I've told you the good, let me go on to the bad. Now that you've sort of heard the good and the bad, let's get to the ugly. And same with your summary. So in summary, I've told you the good, the bad, the ugly. What have I learned? Boom. And now let me tie back to my introduction. I said I only respected my elders, but I really feel I should respect everybody, especially my peers. See? So that's what I was more looking for. Your preview is good. The good story, I wanted you all to notice that she incorporated the thank you so much versus just the thank you. And that thank you so much, people notice, and it gives it an extra zing, and I think you've noticed that it really works with people. I especially like the way you broke the pattern of the cash register fella that was checking people out. The bad, most people say the bad is they were ignored, that people aren't paying attention to them, and that is to be expected. On the ugly, were you listening to music with a set of Beat headphones on and still practicing saying I respect you, or were you not saying I respect you as you were walking up to your dormitory room? I didn't quite get that. But in any case, I liked your ending on what you learned. And the final thing I would suggest for you, Connie, is when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube 3 times, and there's a piece of paper on the class website, which is your self-evaluation form. See if you don't notice and think that maybe some vocal variety. Speak louder, softer, faster, slower. to make yourself more interesting to listen to. But overall, let's give Connie a big round of applause for going first. Yeah. Thank you, Connie, for going first. Okay. Do we have another volunteer? Oh, you're sitting right here. Hey, hey, rock and roll. Okay. Okay, you need to step. Oh, no, let me move the camera. Now, you'll remember to move 3 times, correct?
I was in the dance team in high school, and this dance is going to be very hard for me to learn.
You were a dancer in high school.
It was.
Is that what you said? Great. Well, so you'll have great movement. Giselle, right? Yeah. Giselle, don't take this wrong, but your clothes don't fit. And so what I want you to do with your arms is roll them up above your sleeves, because I want you to use your hands to gesture. We can't see them when your sleeves go over your hands. That's better. Good. Okay, good. Okay. Giselle stands before us, managing attention, looking around the room, making sure all phones are away, that everyone is looking up at you. Okay, you're in the power stance, feet a little wider than your shoulders, a little wider. Yeah, that's good. And you look around the room and say to yourself, I respect my audience. Finding friendly, what is all this move? Finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I am very nervous. Okay, great. I work in customer service. Okay, so I deal with everyone all the time. You know, my coworkers, my bosses, you know, customers, obviously. And yesterday, I worked a 9-hour shift, which was great for this experiment, right? Because they had put me at the register. So I was just, you know, having people come to me, you know, with different, you know, socioeconomic backgrounds and cultural differences. So, you know, a great pool to experiment on. And in a society where, you know, we depend heavily on technology, our social networking is very small and brittle. I mean, we have global connections everywhere, but face to face, we're not that connected. However, I'm going to discuss 3 types of people when they don't have technology and how they react to respect. For example, this woman, she came in, you know, she had a defensive stance, you know, her arms were crossed over, and you can tell that she had a bad day. You could read it on her face. And so what I like to do is, I like to have my hands over the register, right? Very gently, so it's not like alarming. And I like to keep my chin parallel, because if I keep it too high, it looks like I'm arrogant, and if I keep it too low, it looks like I'm, you know, scared of my customer. And I like to look them in the eye and ask them, hi, how can I help you? Usually, right, it's reciprocated well. And this woman, you know, she wasn't having it, but because I was very kind to her and I was giving her the full attention, you know, body language was very respectful, she unclenched her arms, you know, and she gave me her order slowly. And she was able to, you know, feel comfortable. And when I can tell a customer feels comfortable, I give them one of my good old corny jokes. And sometimes they laugh, sometimes they don't. But, you know, it elicited a smile from her, and I was just very proud of myself, because it's like, if I was able to, you know, make her feel this way, her response was accurate, you know? And that's one of the prices of respect. If you respect someone, they open up to you. Some people are a little more dismissive. You know, they give me their card impatiently, and then they don't even say hi. And I'm not mad about that, because I understand, you know, we're not all raised the same. And so they give me what they want, they tell me what they want, and they take their card and they go. They just, like they weren't here, like I'm not human, like I'm just a machine. And you expect that, and you don't get hurt by it. The ugly though. Look, as a woman, right, I was taught not to make eye contact with men longer than necessary because it's too ambiguous. Their personality and their intentions are too ambiguous, and you cannot give them the benefit of the doubt. You just can't. You know, we live in a sad world where it's like that. And if you are too inviting, if you're too friendly, if you're too open, that's how you get taken advantage of. That's what the women before me taught me. And my bosses, you know, they preach, make eye contact, smile, you know, be jubilant. And I am. I'm a very friendly person naturally. And so sometimes when, you know, a few guys come up to me, sometimes they're alone, they like to lean over the register. They like to come close to my face. And sometimes they like to ask obvious questions like, oh, do you work here? And I have to refrain from saying, no, I volunteer here. Because it's my professional self, you know? Or sometimes they ask, you know, what are you doing later? I can't really say anything. I can tell them, oh, I'm working. But other than that, I can't tell them that I'm not interested because it's not professional. Other times, like for example, yesterday, a man had ordered something and, you know, I smiled, I'm like, hey, have a great day. And he said, thank you, beautiful. And as harmless as it sounds, it's a small reflection of how it is in the real world. If you're too friendly, they will compliment you, but you also feel chills. You feel uncomfortable. And so 2/3 of the time, right? The respect that you give is either considered as flirting or it's dismissed. And 1/3 of the time, you know, it's reciprocated. And I think that we as humans, we as a society have forgotten how to respect each other because we're more robotic than we are humane. Thank you.
Thank you. Val, over here.
Hi, I'm Daisy.
Hi,
Hi,
Daisy.
Daisy.
I really enjoyed that she told me about her work experience because I think that it's different than just, you know, saying, just thank you to people more often. Like, I don't know, it seemed more relatable to me because I also work in customer service. And I guess my favorite part about the speech was the ending. I think it was a very clear way to say something that's true about society as a whole. And I like that she mentioned respect without really saying it, without specifically saying, I practice respect. I enjoy that.
Thank you, Daisy. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hi, Alex.
I thought it was a great speech. I don't know why you were nervous because you did very well, and you took a really good personal touch on it, which I thought was really interesting. And I thought you structured it really well by talking about like 3 different types of people you interacted with over the course of your job. So I thought it was, I don't know, that was great.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah. Okay, well, let me start with the positive. You want to hide your hands again, huh? Okay.
Company now.
Giselle.
Yes.
You identified something that I mentioned, as you know, when I was giving instruction for this. Do not do anything to get yourself killed or fired. And I also said women have to be careful because men are dogs and they interpret, many men interpret the least of smiles as she wants me. And it's very sad. And you have to be careful. And I'm glad you raised this because I will comment on it in a few minutes after I talk about your speech. Okay? First off, Giselle and everyone else, when I give you an outline and ask you to present it to me in an outline form, that doesn't mean give it to me in paragraphs. Does everyone know what an outline looks like? Yeah? Okay. It looks like this, with the outlines that I gave you with an intro, a thesis, the Roman numerals that follow as I gave you, right? It doesn't look like long paragraphs, okay? All right? So, lesson learned, and thank you, Giselle, for showing everybody what not to do. Yeah.
Glad I could be the first.
That you were of great assistance. I was looking to see a distinct intro, thesis preview, roadmap of where you were going to go and what you were going to do, a summary, conclusion, and tie back on what I learned overall, and a real ability to have a narrative line go along. Okay? So let's see if we can get that next time. Please, folks, never apologize when you go up to speak. If you're nervous, fake it till you make it. If you're not confident, fake it till you make it. Because what happens when you say, I'm nervous, or I was up all night with a cold, or my car broke down and I had to change a tire, or something else, is your audience expectations go like this. They go, oh, this is going to be a bad speech. I'm going to daydream or blow it off. And you're appealing to pity, and you don't want to appeal to pity. Just man up and just boom, do the speech. We don't care. And you weren't nervous. You knew it, and you had it, and you were fine.
Woman up. Woman up. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, woman up. Okay, I'll be
Still my
PC
favorite.
today. Woman up. Okay, or human up. How's that? Okay, human up. Yeah. Yeah. And secondly, when you do the parts, move, so you're not a static. So practice walking 3 times, so you have that static thing. And then third, you don't have the static thing. And the third thing is, I'd like to see you not have a card. You didn't hardly refer to it, so you didn't need it. It was just a kind of a clutch, right? And you trust your memory. Throw away those training wheels. Now, let me talk to you about whether you did the assignment or not. The assignment was for you to repeat the mantra repetitively over and over again. Oh, I respect you silently to yourself as you were waiting on your customers. You described, I don't know if you did or not, I hope you did, but you described some other nonverbal gestures that you engaged in, leveling body contact, looking level, looking even, and those are good positive things, etc. But the mantra was the thing I was after that you do, not just at work, but in your personal contact, walking along the street, everywhere else, and you get in the habit of giving off a respectful vibration. So when people meet Giselle, they say, respectful lady. On your last issue, as sure you can tell from my comment that I made Tuesday, I'm in total sympathy with you. I think these things are outrageous. I have a daughter who is subject to this shit, and it bugs me to no end. One young lady, the most recent thing I heard, I don't know if I mentioned this already in this class, it's just so bad that these older men said, pretend it was you. They said, well, what does Giselle want to have to eat? And her boyfriend says, well, why don't you ask Giselle? It's like, she couldn't speak for herself. That's how low she was in their minds, and she was even lower than a divot, lower than an object. But my Lord, we've got some ways to go, and you know this whole thing, and so what I take out of this, and which is why I give that cautionary note, is if your heart is pure, if you're just you know friendly and smiling, and you don't have ulterior motives, and you have a quick response, so people can say, "Oh, thank you, I'm engaged. Thank you, I have a boyfriend," and it just goes on, a little white lie, and it goes on. Life goes on, and no harm, no foul, and we get on with life. You know, things work out, and we continue to educate young boys to the sensitivity of treating people equally and not being so aggressive and being more sensitive, and that's where I think education can really come into play. Let me end on a positive note with you. I think that your doing this at work was a unique look at doing the experiment that we don't normally get from people. So I appreciate you taking it to work and sharing that with us. So thank you. Another volunteer. I see you, and then you. Sounds like a tin can. Okay. Shall I prompt you to move 3 times? Take a step. Oh, let me move the camera. Okay. Ooh, really did move the camera. Oh.
That's good.
Well, it's Anna, right?
Anna Sophia. I usually go by my middle name, but here it's fine.
Like Sophia Loren? You prefer Sophia?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm good with that. Sophia stands before you, managing attention. She's nicely in the power stand. She looks around the room, making sure all eyeballs are upon her. No phones are out. No computers are open. She says to herself, I respect my audience, and really means it. Finds friendly eyes near the front and center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hello, my name is Anna Sophia, and I'm gonna talk to you
Hi,
about...
Sophia.
I'm gonna talk to you about how I communicated respect non-verbally for 48 hours, which was a real challenge because nowadays, especially our generation, are used to be in contact communication with each other, either by talking, by sending a message, by showing our emotions to others, by emojis, or some sort of communication that is verbal. So I'm gonna talk to you about 2 different ways I did this, which was with close friends, with people I saw that were talking in front of me, and with people I just passed by. Was it either a room walk or in a dining hall? And I'm gonna tell you 3 environments in which I did this experiment. The first one, which was the best one, was with my sweet mate, which loves to tell me stories about her day, about her personal life, and she can go on for hours, which prompts me sometimes to not really listen to her, interrupt her, or just sometimes cut her off. So this time I decided to show nonverbal respect. I stood there looking at her directly in the eye, waiting for her to talk, engaging with her nonverbally, smiling at her, which just glowed up her face. She was so happy I was demonstrating this kind of respect to her, just listening to her and just indulging in everything she had to say to me before I said something in response. The second time I did this was in the track and field, in which I was just exercising for a bit, and I sat down to stretch. And as I just saw people passing by, walking around me, I tried to express some kind of respect towards them, even though I don't know the person and they were just walking by me, it didn't backfire. I just got a little bit ignored. Some faces just passed by. But some people, when they saw me smiling at them or just showing that, trying to give them that vibe of respect, they turned back. they looked at me, ignored it, then they just came back to my face and saying like, thank you, like it's really friendly for someone, I don't know, to just embrace me or try to bring me in. And for the last part was at a dining hall. And I saw a group of guys in which I identified one of my friends. And he smiled at me, and that made me walk towards him to say hi. So I go towards him, and he looks at me and asks me, how are you doing today? In which I just refrained from speaking for a few seconds and just looked at him, smiled, and to all of his friends as well. And I just received the most confusing looks I could ever receive. The 4 or 5 guys over there just looked at me like, why is she not speaking? What's wrong with her? Until a few seconds later, I just said, oh, I'm good, thank you, and I just moved on with my life. But it was a really fun experience to see how they were just so confused by someone just trying to smile at them, or just try to, you know, even though I don't know you, I respect you, but not actually saying it, right? So what I learned from this experiment is that people get this type of respect or nonverbal vibes in a very different way, because we're so used to talking or receiving immediate responses to everything we do that it's very weird for people to just embrace that you are not talking or just embrace some vibes you want to give. But other people just are very welcoming, and even though you don't know them, you just smile at them, they receive you and they say, this could be one of my friends. Or if I see them another time, I'll smile at them. And that's just a way of people recognizing you and pointing you out. And that's something I really enjoyed about this experiment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, do you prefer Anna Sophia or Sophia?
Either one, both, or just my middle name. So.
Sophia. Okay. We'll go with Sophia. You called yourself Anna Sophia. Okay. Here you go. Your turn, ma'am.
Hi everyone, my name is Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
So I really liked your speech. The content, also the projection of your voice was excellent. I have my key, like one of the key ideas you mentioned that I enjoyed the most was when you talked about like your friends. It was kind of like a nice humorous perspective. It was like humorous to us, but I can see why it's ugly to you. But yeah, that was really funny touch.
Improvement.
Hi, Mira.
Hi, Mira.
I don't know. I thought that was actually really good. Maybe, as the professor mentioned, add like variations to your voice for emphases. Get loud and soft when you're excited, and that. I thought it was
That's a great suggestion. Yeah. Well, Anna Sophia, yes. Let me talk about your speech. I want to start with the positive. You look comfortable in your skin, which I like. You seem to like yourself. That's good. Some people don't, you know. Yeah. Your intro was kind of descriptive. As a rule, we're looking for grabbers, draw people in, make them want to listen. So, you mentioned emojis, and we mainly communicate verbally, and that's true. I like the fact that you were really trying to repeat the mantra and say it a lot and make it work. So I like that. So your housemate, or whatever it's called, sweet mate, when you decided to be kind, I think that's a good word for it, because she sounds a tad lonely. And listen, really listen to her and give her your undivided attention and be respectful. You saw what a difference that made to her, and probably rolled over into other aspects of the day where she was really positive toward you, I bet. And, you know, it's nice. It's, you know, this Anna Sophia isn't such the brat I thought she was, right? Yeah. So that's always good, you know. I understand what you're saying. I have some aunts and uncles that can really, you know, take up an afternoon with their reminiscence. And, you know, it's, you know, takes some patience. Yes. On the your story about the guys where you held back and didn't speak for a moment, that was what I want to say is that was okay. It was a good experiment to try with that. What I want to say is you don't necessarily always have to be silent when you're doing this. You can give off respectful vibrations while you're talking, and it doesn't always have to just be nonverbal alone silently. You can be respectful as you're talking to somebody, and so practice doing that, you know, sort of, in concert. I would like you to practice walking a little bit more effectively. You only took baby steps this time. So could you do the walking properly? Now undo your hands, let them be by your side. So you say, let me first talk about the good and take 3 steps to the right and 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 the good. Stay there for a minute. And you work this side of the room, talk to them, glance over at them, but work this side of the room. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to focus on them. See, you see how much more you moved? I really have to move the camera, where I just had to like tap it. You just went. Shh. Now, 5 steps to your left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, let me give you some feedback on what was wrong there. You walked, you turned your body to the side. You never want to turn your body to the side. Always face front when you're facing your audience. Especially never turn your back on your audience, but cheat forward. Now, come back 3 steps to center, cheating forward. See how much more effective that is? Because you want to keep your eyeballs always on the audience. See, are they looking at me? Are they listening to me? Do I have them in the palm of my hand? See? And that's where you want them. Okay? So those were the things that I thought, as well as the vocal variety, you can improve on, but overall, it was a good speech. And I liked what I learned and your little summary. And as I've said to some of the others, just don't hesitate to make your narrative a little bit more prominent with your voice. Okay, so that you're easier to follow, and you do that with your voice. So what did I learn? See? And then it jumps out and you go, oh, yeah, okay, I see where you are. Okay. Anna Sophia. Thank you. Okay. Do we have another volunteer? Okay, I thought you were next. Then you'll be next, my famous camera operator. Thank you, ma'am. Is it Nyla?
Yes.
Nyla, okay, Nyla, you're a different size. Okay, I guess step that way, just tie down, I guess. And, I guess I could do this. Is that what I do? Or do I do this? I do this. I do this, right? Yeah. Yes. That looks good, yeah. Okay. Nyla stands before us, feet in the power stance, a little wider. Good. Your arms are rolled up nicely. She looks around the room to make sure everyone's looking up. Eyeballs are upon you. Managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Nyla.
Hi, Nyla.
And so then similar to what Connie said earlier, I was always raised with the whole like respect your elders thing. My parents are very big about respect. Like one thing that's very big in my family is like if we're ever going to a gathering, you have to say hi to every single person who's inside the house. Like it doesn't matter if you know them or if you don't. And then you also have to hug them as well. Except like you have to go beyond that because like in my family a one-armed hug or a one-armed hug is considered like kind of like disrespectful because you're not putting your full effort into it. So it's like every person's like, hi Auntie Valerie, like hi, how's it going? And so like it does get exhausting after a bit, but still like respect to me is a common courtesy and it's something that everybody deserves. And so then for this experiment, what I did in order to communicate nonverbal respect was I either nodded at them or I would smile before we started our encounter because I feel like if you set the grounds of respect before you start talking, then it sets the tone for the conversation basically. Like let's say like I smile and you smile back. It's for me, I think that leads to more positive interaction versus just like eye contact like hi. And the reasons that I chose a smile and a nod because I feel like those are both respectful gestures because they go beyond like just simply acknowledging a person. Like it's more of like a hi, like yes, like you there, like I see you. And to me, I consider that respectful. And so then I'll start by talking about the good. And so the good in the experiment was more of when people, or it's like when I would smile at someone and then they smiled back and it led to a positive like interaction. Like when I went to Starbucks, I go to the Starbucks and Target all the time because I really love Starbucks and the green tea frappuccinos are great if you were wondering. And then and so then the barista there, typically the same guy who works there, normally like I would just go up, like smile and say my order, but this time like I smiled and I nodded, which might have been like a bit of overkill kind of to some people. I realized that after. And then he also smiled and nodded back and then it was kind of like a hi and then how are you and like what's your order. And for me it was a very positive interaction and I also think that my drink tasted better that day, so I do think that that paid off. And then so now for the neutral, or I mean I guess it's considered the bad, but to me I didn't consider any or this experience particularly bad, but it was when I would smile and nod at someone and they would just kind of ignore me. And like what Professor Miller said earlier, like that is something that can be expected because a lot of these times like I'm in a store or something, so like they're more focused on doing their job and stuff, like filling my needs, than they are like asking like how are you or things of that nature. So like I didn't have any like bad experiences, I just categorize those ones as neutral. And then now for the ugly, I only had one experience to me that I would particularly consider like, oh, like this is ugly. But I went to Target, it was before I went to the Starbucks, and I smiled at them, or I smiled at the store clerk, like, yes, like, hi, you know, kind of saying that. And like she just looked at me and then was just like, okay, like, is this it? And then after that, I felt extremely awkward because it was like, ooh, like I kind of like stepped out of limb on like smiling, like, you know, sitting that. And I also realized like she might have had a bad day that day, so that could play a part into and things like that. Like still, like that was the only experience that made me feel like truly like, ooh, like this was uncomfortable. And then so what I learned from this was basically just like the same thing my parent taught me of giving respect to everybody because it is deserved. And when you give respect, typically in most cases like 75%, it will be given back and it leads to something good, like a better tasting drink.
Thank you. Okay, where are we? I believe we're here. Are we done? Yes, sir. Go ahead. You do it.
Hi, I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric.
I think your speech was very well. I think you did the walking around very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
I also like how you were smiling and laughing during most of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you looked like you were enjoying yourself. And
Yeah.
other than that, it was nice and eloquent. And good job.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eric. Improve it.
Hi, I'm Spencer.
Hi,
Hi,
Spencer.
Something I liked you did was when you wanted to emphasize a word, you kind of slowed down and definitely enunciated it, so it was very clear that that was the focus that you were going for, so that was something I think you did really well.
Good. Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, we're looking for that, you know, vocal variety, loud, soft. Elongate words that you want to emphasize. If you don't have this habit, I recommend in your outline you yellow the keywords that you want to emphasize to get in the habit of doing it till you get that emphatic style of delivery. Well, Nyla, yeah, great. You picked up, come a step forward, yeah. You picked up the walking nicely and without needing much coaching, which was great. You just walked beautifully. So I like that. That was just really good. Yeah. You started with a story of your elders and the hugs, and I was a little confused. I wasn't sure if you cut out the hugs just for a nod and a smile, but I hope he didn't. I just couldn't figure it out. But anyway, I guess you still did the hugs, but you also had a nod and a smile for everybody else. But I hope you were also saying the mantra, I respect you, in addition to the nod and the smile, right? Yeah, because that was the whole purpose. Is the mantra is what's really going to get you the respectful vibrations going on and the habit going in your mind. So, on the good, at Starbucks, you were respectful to the barista, and you said your drink tasted better. This happens to me all the time at Starbucks. I get more almond milk in my drink, and they give me an extra shot free, and on it goes. And I don't do it because I'm gonna get a free shot today. It's the right thing to do, to be kind and nice to people. And then they reciprocate. On the bad, yes, you said it just right. Most of the time, people are locked in their earbuds or their phone, and they're not looking at what's being communicated to them, and so they're not even noticing it. But you can't take it personally, and this is for your benefit. So Nyla develops the habit of being respectful regardless of whether people are getting it or not. You're getting it, you're giving it, and that's what we're trying to train you to do. You give respect always. See? On the ugly, yes, the target, yeah, I don't know. I actually was going to start following you around or something, or just go, what's she up to? I'm glad that didn't happen. I would like you to get rid of the note card and trust your memory that God gave you. Throw away the training wheels of the card. If you can ride the bike without them, you can say the speech aloud in just a rehearsal way of saying. First I have the intro, which I'll talk about my parents, and then I'll have my thesis preview, which I'll say what I'm going to do, and then I'll have the good, then the bad, then the ugly, then I'll say what I learned, and then I'll tie back. And, so you kind of rehearse it that way, in a meta way, without having to say all the parts, and then you remember all the parts. See, so the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you know it in that way. So, one more thing. I think that your tie back was really nice. I like that you tied back to your family and that sort of thing. So continue to work that, and the vocal variety, and like to see just the the narrative come out in your voice with what you're going to do, a preview of I'll do good, the bad, the ugly, but you did have it in the outline form as I asked for, so good job. Thank you. Okay, next. Yeah. Oh, I said our camera operator, yes. Very good.
Here's my summary.
Let's give this a gentleman a round of applause for setting it up. Yeah, good job, yeah. Okay, let's see. Maybe I should move the camera. Okay. Perfect. Okay, Chan, right?
Yes.
Okay. Chan stands before us, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, making sure everyone's looking at you, finding friendly eyes near the front and center, saying to yourself, I respect my audience and really mean it. Find friendly eyes near the front and center, say your name, feel the love, start your speech. Chan.
Hi everyone, my name is Chang.
Hi, Chan.
Thank you. Have you ever walked to class in the morning rush hour and realized after getting to class that you have never made a single eye contact with anybody?
Yes.
And that it didn't make a difference whether you passed one person or 100 other people. I started noticing that when I started this experiment, and going around trying to convey respect to people enabled me to make connections that, however fleeting, brought joy both to me and the people I met. My attempts weren't always successful and sometimes backfired, but those experiences taught me not to take myself too seriously and also to cherish the relationships that I had with me. So I've had many positive experiences, and I'm just going to share with you one of them. So I went to the course reader material store in Westwood, and I was second in line, and I noticed that the lady was looked a little tired, and so when it was my turn, she asked me, perhaps for the upteenth time in her career, how may I help you, sir? And I refrained from answering a question. I looked her in the eye, and I asked her how she was. And her eyes sparkled just a little, and her back kind of straightened up a little bit. And she said she was fine and thanked me for asking. And although her words were just platitudes, but I could tell from her tone and her body language that there was a palpable sense of warmth between us. And at the end of the encounter, she said, all the best for your class, dear. So what could have been a routine transaction became a moment of connection between me and her, another human being. But not all were rosy. There were stories that weren't that great. I went to the UCLA bookstore, and I tried to make eye contact with the guy at the back deposit, and I thanked him. He said thank you, but as he said that, he looked away, turned his back away from me, and just called the next person in line. And so I felt a little bit neglected and like left in the corner. So I tried again with the cashier, and the same thing happened. She just looked to the line and gestured for the next person to come over. And for a moment I felt angry and I felt disappointed and discouraged. But just the mindset of conveying respect kind of doused my anger and helped me to understand them better. So naturally, I couldn't have expected them to be so deliberate in conveying respect in the rush hour when they're trying to serve as many people as quickly as possible. And just as I thought that things couldn't get any worse, I was flabbergasted to get the ugliest response from my close friend and roommate. During breakfast at the dining table, we sat down together with our cereal, and I tried to send him some of those respectful vibes that I cultivated with Sophia 2 days ago. Well, he freaked out. And he delivered the ultimate insult when he said, I looked as if I was trying to woo him. So first, wrong gender. Second, my taste isn't that terrible. But we have since reconciled after I told him about the experiment. So this experiment taught me a few things. Firstly, that conveying respect is a really easy and cost-free way to just spread happiness. And people usually reciprocate, and if they don't, it doesn't mean they hate you, it just means that they have something else on their plate. Second, I learned to not take myself too seriously and not to take rejections too personally. And finally, I realized that I may not have given enough respectful vibes to those closest and dearest to me, such that when I really did try, it seemed alien and scary to them. And indeed, it's very easy for us to take our closest friends for granted. So, to end off, this experiment made my world feel a bit larger because I started to notice faces in the crowds as individuals. And the next time you walk down Bryn Walk, I recommend you to start noticing the people you pass by. If your eyes cross paths, send some vibes, and if they don't respond the way you want to, don't take it too hard. And if your friends and family start freaking out at your new endeavor, keep at it, because I think that they'll get used to the richer relationship that you have taken the initiative to build. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine.
I really liked your opening. You opened with a question which really got our attention, and I liked your details that you talked about, like cereals on the table and the people turned back on you. Yeah, those were the things that I really liked about. Thank you.
Yes, rhetorical questions sometimes can be dull if they're just dead rhetorical questions. But when they're rhetorical questions that are pertinent to the subject at hand, then they make the speech come alive. Improvement?
Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
I really liked how you took your professor's constructive criticism of the structural vibrations and the walking around, and I really heard that come out of you, and you were walking really well too. And I also liked how you noticed the subtle words that the lady was using when she spoke from sir to dear, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Storytelling, we can digress onto that for a moment, is often enhanced by just the choice of a little special detail or a word picture or a story. Thank you, dearie. And you have a very excellent class. And just a little turn of a phrase that we go, oh, yeah, that was good. That was nice. That helped us see the situation or the cereal on the table, And that was a good quality that you have. Well, Chen, let me talk to you about your speech. Start with the positive. I liked your rhetorical question, and I answered affirmatively yes, as I'm sure you heard me yell from the peanut gallery. We all have, especially if we walk down Bruin Walk. I would like you to have, when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, I liked your speech overall, but what I didn't get out of it was the narrative, the preview of where you were in your speech all the time. So if you could say, it backfired badly, so today I want to tell you how it backfired badly by sharing with you the good, the bad, the ugly. So first, the good with your voice, and then go into the course reader material story. And she said, have the best class, dearie. And that was sweet, but there was a little bad too at the bookstore, I think. And like that, and say the phrase of where you are in your narrative so we can follow it. Please don't print on the back of the paper, only one side for me.
Okay.
Thank you. The ugly, yes. Gosh, your roommate accused you of being, I guess, a homosexual, which is sad, I guess. I don't know if you should have been complimented or something. I don't know. But I don't know what you were doing. Were you staring at him for a long period of time? Were you staring at a certain region of his body? Were you lovingly staring at him? Because that wasn't the assignment. The assignment was to look at a person. You were to look at a person for a short period of time in the eye and like, I respect you, and look away. Now, if you were really honing in on him, and then yes, I can see why he thought you were coming on to him, and that's not the assignment. Okay, and so everyone should be aware of that. That wasn't the assignment to stare long at people. You just, I respect you and look away. Because anything over 5 seconds, people will think you're staring at them. You're weird. You're hitting on them or whatever, and that's not the assignment. And I hope, so far no one has told me that they actually violated the assignment and said the word verbally, I respect you, because that's definitely what you were not supposed to do. But I take it when you told him about the assignment, he probably said, oh, I was so relieved. I was going to write your parents. Okay. And what you learned, I think, was very wise and thoughtful. And your summary and conclusion was well put. So you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's our time? Do we have time for one more or not? One more?
I can go for the next class if there's enough time. So we only have like 5 minutes left.
Okay, we'll stop here, and because I have to get ready for my next class. So next time we'll pick it up. If you have already done it, then be getting your introductory speech ready by calling your study buddy. And even if you have not done your respect speech, still call your study buddy and get your study buddy introductory speech ready. I will distribute the prompts for the other 3 speeches next Tuesday. And just a reminder, a week from this Tuesday, we will be going to Powell Library, okay? Everyone remember that? Yes, please.
The study buddy introductory speech, is that outlined in the syllabus somewhere?
No, that's, yes. Did you not get it?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't, so I haven't gotten a chance to look at it. Understood. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Okay, yes, please. Any other questions? Okay, return with honor. Yes, please. Brevity? Oh, privacy. Turn this off. Turn this little thing. How do I turn it off?